Are you ready for the latest? You know that drug that President Trump said might be helpful in treating coronavirus? It's called hydroxychloroquine. Well, his haters say he has a financial interest in the drug. You know, follow the money. As mentioned, Donald Trump recommended hydroxychloroquine as a possible treatment for coronavirus.
I just think it's something, you know, the expression, I've used it for certain reasons. What do you have to lose?
Now, to be sure, the medical community is divided over whether or not hydroxychloroquine would be an effective and safe treatment for the coronavirus. They're saying that the evidence is anecdotal, and since the evidence is anecdotal, Donald Trump must have a vested nefarious interest. Trump derangement syndrome. Again, follow the money.
And what's interesting is that Dr. Fauci has been very clear, and he said that this drug, there's only very anecdotal evidence that it can be helpful with COVID-19. The FDA has not approved it for treatment with COVID-19. Yeah. And my concern is if the United States is stockpiling this medication, those that need it to treat diseases like lupus. I have a very good friend that has lupus who cannot now find this medication that treats her lupus. That is a significant problem. I want to know, why is the president so convinced that this is the medication that needs to be stockpiled? What is in it for him? And let's face it, there's always something in it for this president when he wants to tout something. And so I'm very uncomfortable with this newfound love of hydroxychloroquine. I just don't understand it, especially when the experts are saying that it's not even really approved for treatment.
We've been calling Trump a snake oil salesman for years, and now he's literally standing at a podium trying to sell us a miracle cure. They call it hydroxychloroquine. And let me tell you, folks, it's a genuine all-purpose miracle cure. Hey, you, sir, you look like you want to say something. Yes, I tried it, and both my acne and my coronavirus went away. And you and I have never met, sir. So there you have it, folks. There you have it. What have you got to lose? By the way, you know Trump and his buddies own stock in hydroxychloroquine because it's a 6-syllable word, and he didn't stumble on it once.
Dr. Fauci wasn't allowed to talk about what he feels is important to say about this drug that the president keeps pushing. A lot of people would say, follow the money. There's got to be some sort of financial tie to someone somewhere that has the president pushing this repeatedly. But more importantly, he had Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx, which most people, I think we can universally agree, are trying to slow the spread, or trying to contain this virus, or trying to save American lives as we are looking at our worst week yet ahead.
Right. You see, this is their vision of how Donald Trump operates in the White House.
Yeah. How many of those guys in office owe everything to me? I made them. Yeah, I made them just like a tailor makes a suit of clothes. I take a nobody, see? Teach him what to say. Get his name in the papers. Yeah, pay for his campaign expenses. Dish out a lot of groceries and coal. Get my boys to bring the voters out. And then count the votes over and over again till they added up right and he was elected.
That's what must be going on, right? I mean, after all, the stuff, hydroxychloroquine, doesn't work, right?
That is nonsense. Complete and utter nonsense. And in any situation, there are always going to be people who promote one kind of quack cure or another, and there are Lazarus effects. In every epidemic I've ever looked at, it's always the case. Let me just repeat. We know that at very best, this drug will have a very mild effect on changing the course of the disease, if it has any effect at all. That is what the data has shown so far, and I am convinced that that's what further studies will show. And it's not without adverse consequence. It is irresponsible to promote this drug at this time.
So it doesn't work. But what about this LA-based ER doc with 20 years experience?
What we're finding clinically with our patients is that it really only works in conjunction with zinc. So the hydroxychloroquine opens the zinc channel, zinc goes into the cell, it then blocks the replication of the cellular machinery. So it has to be used in conjunction with zinc. We are seeing some clinical responses in that regard. There are people that take it regularly for other disease processes. We have to be cautious and mindful that we don't prescribe it for patients who have COVID that are well. It really should be reserved for people that are really sick in the hospital or at home very sick that need that medication. Otherwise, we're going to blow through our supply for the patients that take it regularly for other disease processes.
But what you're saying is you're prescribing it and it is working for COVID-19 patients.
Every patient I prescribed it to has been very, very ill. And within 8 to 12 hours, they were basically symptom-free. And so clinically, I am seeing a resolution. That mirrors what we saw in the French study and some of the other studies worldwide.
And he ain't the only one.
Well, I think it adds to our knowledge. The data from Europe seem to suggest that hydroxychloroquine, either alone or in combination with the antibiotic azithromycin, might shorten the course of illness. And this randomized trial from China does seem to support that we can shorten the illness.
And then there's this international survey of 6,000 doctors. Here's what the Washington Times said about it. An international poll of more than 6,000 doctors found that the anti-malarial drug hydroxychloroquine was the most highly rated treatment for the novel coronavirus. Physicians in 30 countries found that 37% of those treating COVID-19 patients rated hydroxychloroquine as the most effective therapy from a list of 15 options. The 30 nations surveyed included those in Europe, Asia, North and South America, as well as Australia. Hydroxychloroquine usage was most widespread in Spain, where 72% of physicians surveyed said they prescribed it. End of quote. And then there's the FDA, which gave the drug hydroxychloroquine emergency use authorization. Based on the totality of scientific evidence available to the FDA, it is reasonable to believe that chloroquine phosphate and hydroxychloroquine sulfate may be effective in treating COVID-19. The known and potential benefits of chloroquine phosphate and hydroxychloroquine sulfate when used to treat COVID-19 outweigh the known and potential risks of such products. End of quote. Hey, if you add up enough anecdotes, pretty soon you have data.
For me, it saved my life. And I only can go by what it is that I have gone through and what my story is. And I can't speak for anyone else. So that's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm only speaking for myself.
I mean, her symptoms were bad.
I did not receive it until the day I actually got tested for COVID-19, and that was March 31st. And I just plummeted that day. I mean, I went from 0 to 100 in a time, and it went from the headaches to being extremely severe to fluid building up in my lungs to sweats breaking out, the cough, my breathing being labored. It all happened in a matter of hours, and I really didn't have any time between my husband and myself, Jason, to make a decision on whether do I go to the hospital, which I honestly did not want to do, and that has nothing to do with the care that I thought I would receive there or the first responders or the nurses that are there. It had nothing to do with them. It's the fact that the hospitals were full near my area, and that I honestly believe that once I got into something like that, I may not actually come out. And that was my biggest fear. And I knew that this medication would possibly save me.
Now, contrary to a lot of bad reporting, no, the governor of Michigan did not ban the use of hydroxychloroquine. What she did was restrict it because she wanted it available for the people using it for other non-coronavirus reasons. But after Donald Trump put pressure on the governor reversed the directive, and this Ohio State rep credits Donald Trump with making the drug available for her.
But it was not something that, unless the president had mentioned it, that it would be accessible. If President Trump had not talked about this, it would not be something that's accessible for anyone to be able to get that right now. It would not even be possible. And I mean that honestly, because I did have a difficult time even that day obtaining the medication because of an order that was put down in my state.
New York Governor Andrew Cuomo.
There has been anecdotal evidence that it is promising. That's why we're going ahead. Doctors have to prescribe it. There are some people who have pre-existing conditions where it doesn't work, or they're taking medication that's not consistent with this treatment. But anecdotally, it's been positive.
Donald Trump never called hydroxychloroquine a cure. He suggested it might be useful for treating the symptoms of the coronavirus. Now, there's no evidence whatsoever that he has some sort of financial interest in the drug. So can we knock it off? Can we get back to the business of maybe trying to fight this coronavirus, coming up with treatments, and possibly coming up for a vaccine to deal with this? Can we knock off the Trump derangement syndrome, at least just for a few months?
Right now, we're struggling. People want to criticize the president, but imagine being the president of a country and have your country got sick. So it's difficult for him. We all got to pull together as people now. Now is not the time for blame and all of these other things and anger. It's here now. We got to just be together. We got to all stay safe. Nobody wants to transmit it. Nobody wants to attract it. Nobody wants to get it. So let's just stay safe and do the protocol that we have to do. Protect our kids and our pets.
Wow.
Well, after we come up with one for the coronavirus, let's come up with a vaccine for Trump derangement syndrome. I'm Larry Elder, and we've got a country to save. I'll see you next time.